According to speedrun.com, it looks like Tidal has a 36.23 and Noxitu has a 45.50. It also looks like we're getting started here. So a lot of people know this game for the dash, obviously. At this point, as we're getting later into the stages of the group stage, I'm kind of hoping that a lot of people here have seen at least one race of this game and know mostly what's going on. But one thing that a lot of people know this game for is the dash, and you actually don't have it in this opening prologue, which is why you see them jumping so much, because that way you can move faster than just normal walking, even if you don't have the ability to dash. But with the prologue now over for both of our racers, we're going to have the ability to dash everywhere, and we're going to be moving a lot faster, because that's obviously a good thing to do, is to move as quickly as you can with whatever options you have. Gladlin and Hats, I didn't see our file names here, but those are pretty good ones, I gotta say. And so now we're off, so it's looking pretty good so far in terms of sync, I guess. But basically what you're seeing here between these two is a lot of movement techniques. There's a lot of different things you can do with the dash. Things like hyper dashes, where you kind of do a down diagonal and jump. There's just, in general, a lot of different speed tech, like the hyper dashes I mentioned. There's wall bouncing, where you dash upwards against the wall. There's wave dashing and extended dashing, which are two methods of getting speed while keeping your dash. And then even stuff like reverse hypers and reverse extendeds and just everything. And basically everything is shown off in this chapter. Including later in the chapter, you're going to see less common techniques like dash jumps and neutral wall jumps, which are some actually kind of interesting things to me. Not as much dash jumps as neutral jumps, but you see it basically all. I think the only thing you usually don't see are ultras, which are kind of a big one, because those are very helpful in keeping your speed. And that's one thing about this game, is you have to know that, hey, I don't want to just do one dash. I want to do a dash and then keep my speed as much as I can, which is why you'll also see bunny hops a lot of the time to maintain momentum while moving along the ground. And then that's Forsaken City, and you move to Old Site, where you realize that, hey, this game has a lot of different chapters, and each chapter has its own kind of new movement mechanic. So that last chapter had the zippers, where they kind of move along the track when you make contact with them. And that also leads into this chapter's use of dream blocks. So the dream blocks, when you dash into them, you keep dashing in the direction there. Also, there are some ultras from Tidal trying to get some speed with some downwards diagonal dashes. Very nicely done, and Noxitu not far behind. But the dream blocks, when you dash into them, you'll keep going in that direction until you get out of the dream block, and then you'll get your stamina back and your dash when you exit the dream block. So you have climbing stamina along with your dash, and that's another thing you need to manage in terms of moving through the stages quickly, because some methods of climbing that are faster take away stamina possibly a lot quicker than other methods, so you do have to be really careful. Unfortunately, even with this character here that chases you, they just mimic your movements 3 seconds behind you do. And that really points out that there's no actual luck-based factors in this game. So basically any level design we're able to work with. Unfortunate death there from Tidal. But we're able to work with almost any level design and kind of just make a consistent route through it. Or, I mean, not consistent, because it is a tough game to move around in sometimes because it's very fast. But more rather strats that are going to work if you do them right, I guess, which I guess is the word consistent is what I'm looking for. It's a bit confusing to explain. Basically, since everything is the same every time, we can kind of come up with routes that'll work no matter what, as long as you get the inputs right. So it just allows movement to be really fluid and work between the game. And then at the end of the chapter, you get to the Awake section, where as the name dream and dream blocks applies, that was a dream. And now you're not dreaming, you're awake, you're not even sleeping at all. And you need to move through the last couple sections of this chapter, the last couple screens that you saw before we woke up, except with no dream blocks. This is actually a surprising technical part because if you have trouble keeping up your speed, you can see a huge gap between racers. Looks like Tidal and Noxitu are still really close, though. Entering Celestial Resort. There you go. Yeah, people like to blame luck or RNG or whatever you want to call it on deaths in games, even with not much luck factor like this one. Possibly because of salt or something like that. A lot of people don't believe it when we know that when they say there's no luck-based stuff in this game, because this game is just so kind of wild with how it moves, especially with these dust bunnies, where because everything's moving the same, one small difference in how you move can change stuff like cycles, which these dust bunnies are on cycles. Like one small difference in movement can change the way you have to deal with something like these dust bunnies. Kind of feels like it's luck-based sometimes, but it's not really. Yeah, Big Yoshi Master, it's bad gameplay luck, totally. That's it. No, but it looks like both these races are doing really good, keeping pace with each other, entering the resort. It looks like Tidal is having a few more death problems than Noxitu, dying a few more times than I've noticed Noxitu. However, Noxitu's playing a lot safer and a lot slower. So it's kind of one of those, I don't want to say tortoise in the hare, because I don't think Tidal's the person to be that confident. I think Tidal's a very humble person. But I definitely think this is one of the situations where Noxitu's playing slow and steady, but getting things done. Meanwhile, Tidal might struggle a little bit going for a strat, but is still overall moving very quickly to the point where it's allowing him to stay ahead, even if a death or two can happen on any given screen. Which this game can have a death happen in any given screen, so you really have to be careful. Especially when you enter the huge mess here. The huge mess is kind of... I don't know what word I'm looking for because I don't know. It's kind of interesting, I guess is the word I'm going to use. You have three kind of split paths where you have to clean up all three by hitting a button at the end of each split path, and ooh, that's a bad death from Noxitu. And you have to kind of clean up each split path by hitting a button. And it kind of changes the other levels depending on what stuff you clean up first. So now the route that Tidal's going to go on won't have the brown boxes that usually if you go to this section first, they will be there. Looks like Noxitu finally made it through that screen. That's a screen I usually don't see too many people struggle on, so it's interesting to see I can kind of see why, with what he was going for, with what they were going for, why Noxitu messed up on that screen a little bit. And it's definitely something about this game is sometimes you might not feel comfortable doing something, even if what you're doing probably isn't consistent. And no, to answer a question in chat about the huge mess, but pi is irrational. First off, that is incorrect by math. But second off, no, every section is completable, no matter what order you do them in. Every strawberry, and the crystal heart, for that matter, which are two of the main collectibles in this game, are the crystal hearts and the strawberries. Every strawberry and the crystal heart in this section is completely collectible. It's entirely possible to get every strawberry and the crystal heart in one trip through the level, regardless of your order of the paths. So the devs were not mean when they made the split path section. You just have to be careful because you can't re-enter a split path without having to re-enter the chapter. And Tidal is already out of the huge mess, so got through the elevator shaft and is now working up to the presidential suite. Is going to be the next part. Obtainable was the word I was looking for, thank you. Meanwhile, Noxitu's on the last section of the huge mess here with the towels. And Tidal gets this key. You see a retry there. So this game has 2 points in the game where you have to take a key to a certain place, and well, there's a lot more points than 2, but there's 2 points where since keys stay with you when you die, it's faster to get back to the entrance of the screen by retrying in the menu. And that actually brings up something interesting. You see when you pause the game in a cutscene, you have an option to skip it. That skip cutscene button is where the retry button would be in normal gameplay. So if you think you're in a cutscene, but you're actually not in the cutscene yet, and you accidentally try to skip it, you'll actually retry and be sent back to the beginning of whatever screen you're on. So that kind of brings up some fun, risky stuff. Trying not to retry or try to skip the cutscene too early and then end up accidentally retrying. It's a problem that comes up at some points in the run. I know some people have more trouble with some cutscenes more than other cutscenes, but one thing that a lot of people have trouble with is the boss fight here against Ishiro, where he kind of will, in consistent intervals, will send a bolt of lightning, and then where that bolt of lightning is where he's going to charge at you. So you need to watch out for his charge or else he's going to damage you. And since this is a one-hit kill game, you don't want that to happen. There are very few screens in the game where there are actually checkpoints like mid-screen, and this is not one of them. So this very long screen at the end of the chapter, you'd have to restart entirely if Ishiro hit you. Fortunately, Tidal makes it through to the end. Meanwhile, Noxitu is just entering the fight section here. Is there any cutscene where, like a really long screen with a cutscene at the end? There are a few cutscene skips that are a lot worse than others if you accidentally do it too early. But I don't think there's one specific room that's... I mean, I guess there's a section in the summit here. That one is pretty annoying because that water room is slow with the old woman there in Golden Ridge. Golden Ridge has a few different mechanics. You see wind, bubbles, clouds, basically a lot of nature. And each of them can do different things involving kind of messing with where you're going. So the clouds are bouncy, the wind pushes you, and the bubbles basically give you an extra dash. But there is some point in the last chapter where there's a set of screens that it's all really bad to retry on, and it's a mistake some people make if they don't remember the timing perfectly. But for the most part, really just any accidental retry when you're trying to skip a cutscene is really bad. But what wasn't really bad was the spike jump that Tidal just did. So Tidal did a spike jump all the way back in Resort that Noxitu just finished during the huge mess, where when you're running towards a wall and you jump at a corner, there's a small area where you can wall jump off the corner. You can wall jump off the corner that you're moving away from, and it's a bit weird to explain, but it looks really cool. And the way that spike boxes work is that if you're moving away from the spikes, they won't actually hit you. So you combine those two properties to get a wall jump off of where spikes are and skip a portion. And then you keep on moving. You have these directional blocks, which when you make contact with them, they'll move in wherever the arrow is pointing. And some of them have these little control points, like this one has on the top of it, that let you move it. So since that one's on the top, you'll be able to move it up and down, but there's sideways ones you can move left and right. And looks like Tidal had a bit of a scary encounter there, but makes it through the screen. Ooh, no. About to enter the last portion of the level here, Tidal. We're going to see the cliff face, where the wind gets so harsh that you basically have to do some form of dash to even move forward. And although it can be kind of annoying casually, because dashes can only move you forward so much, it's kind of hard to be precise with your movement while dashing. As I mentioned earlier, with this game's kind of lack of luck-based factors, we kind of know how strong the wind is going to be and in what direction on any given screen. So we can use that to kind of just plan out how and when we're going to dash in order to not only get through the screens quickly, but also avoid these snowballs, which attack similar to a Shiro with the kind of coming from the side by tracking your height, and you can jump on them to regain your stamina, but if they hit you, you're gonna die. Just a few differences that make them probably overall more challenging to dodge than a Shiro, but not too bad. And they're only there for so long before you make it to the end of the level where Tidal is now. So very nice Golden Ridge by Tidal. Golden Ridge is a really difficult chapter. It's a very open chapter. And so there's a lot of things you have to do over like open wins and just unfun stuff that can be really hard to pull off. So getting through it that quickly is just great. And you make it to Mirror Temple after, which is even better. Mirror Temple. In the run, this is probably one of my favorite chapters. My favorite overall is Chapter 2, but this one is also a really good one. This chapter's first half here that you're going to see is kind of like supposed to be a maze type thing. And that actually allows us to do some pretty interesting skips. Like you're going to see here, Tidal's going to attempt to... Messed it up there. There we go. Gonna do a movement method to get over those spikes and into this room a bit earlier than intended. You're supposed to get a red bubble from a few screens to the left and fly it over. Red bubbles are like green ones, except they just fly infinitely until you dash out of them or hit a wall or die. But that's besides the point. But you can jump over the spikes and skip a few screens. And so yeah, we already know the solutions on where to go in the maze, so we're just trying to get there as fast as possible because that's a good way to speedrun a maze any percent. If this was 100%, you'd see a lot of side paths getting like a lot of berries and keys and stuff, but we don't need to see that, especially the keys, because actually one of the collectibles in this area makes you find that secret passage so you can not have to use a key door to get to this next set of screens, and then use that key on a later door that has the crystal heart behind it. But since the game gave us a free way to skip a key, we just used that to move on to this next section here. And speaking of moving on, Noxitu, who wanted to go for the swag berry there, but accidentally ended up dying on the last screen because of it. Really wants the berry, but gets it, and gets out of the chapter very smooth. So now Tidal is going to be playing as a Seeker. So a Seeker is a Chapter 5 enemy, actually. And basically that part where you play as them basically kind of teaches you how they work. They can dash, they can break red blocks. They can't go through these soul-looking barrier weird things. They can kill Madeline, though, so that's scary. But what it does teach you is that Madeline can jump on the Seeker. Madeline can bait the Seeker into collecting the keys for her so that she can open doors. Jumping on the Seeker will give you your dash and stamina back, and when the Seeker respawns, it will do a little explosion boost that will not only push you in the direction kind of like a pinball bumper would, which you're going to see a pinball bumper later, which you can use to get speed, and you'll see some people, although not a lot, during 5A at least, in higher level. I think it's a strat in 5B. Not only can you use that explosion for a boost, but the explosion will actually increase the radius that the Seeker can pick up a key coin or break a block of some sort. So the Seekers are actually very versatile in how you can use them to go fast. And you see Tidal going for a strat here. Wants to hit that Seeker. I don't think the Seeker's going to break that wall, which is usually what you want it to do. But you're going to use it to break this wall, so good backup there. And, I mean, I think the Seeker hit the coin, so I don't think it mattered at all. I don't really know. I don't do that strat, so it's kind of hard for me to know exactly why it's good. And I'm going to be honest, I do not know where Noxitu is right now. But Tidal just did search skip, which is a skip that basically... Oh! Noxitu, I like what you're thinking here, buddy. So Tidal did search skip, where you skip a huge maze portion and save a lot of time by doing a reverse extended hyper over a bit of spikes instead of getting 2 keys to use some red bubbles. So meanwhile, Tidal's in the Theo section. I should explain what Noxitu's doing right now. So fairly recently-ish, it was discovered that you can actually... So there are hidden levels called B-sides in this game that you get by unlocking a cassette tape. And we figured out that if you unlock the A side, if you unlock the B side in the normal level, and then beat the B side level, it actually will unlock the next normal level. And we figured out that if done with the best strats, you can actually save time by unlocking the B side for Chapter 5, and then completing that instead of just doing the rest of the normal Chapter 5 level. And it looks like Noxitu wants to do some 5B up in here, so that's actually pretty cool to see. I didn't expect that. So yeah, this level, I did not study 5B. I don't know what to talk about in 5B. I don't know what happens here. Alright, we're just gonna have to see what Noxitu does. It looks like Noxitu going over here. There's actually a really difficult strat where you can skip like 2 keys here. And I don't think Noxitu's going for it based on the path that he's on right now. But I know that you can still skip 1 key fairly easy with, I believe you can do a spike jump. To not have to be able to get up to a later portion without having to unlock a door to use a red bubble. It's a bit confusing. Basically what you're going to see is you're supposed to get 2 keys here. Meanwhile, Tidal's done with Chapter 5. You're supposed to get 2 keys here. 1 to get to where the switch that Noxitu is going to now to open the door, and then 1 to actually go to the door. But with a spike jump, you can skip the key to go to the door. And so Tidal's moving on to Chapter 6. I never explained Theo. I'll try and talk about how Theo works more when Noxitu gets there in this 5B, but I'll try and focus on Chapter 6 for now. And then there's the spike jump I mentioned. So with Chapter 6, you have 2 basic new mechanics. Water is a big play in Chapter 6, so you get to see a lot of swimming around, which I guess I should explain the difference between just normal hypers and like stuff like wave dashes and extendeds. Is there, even if you're on the ground, there's a little bit of a cooldown before you can get your dash back. And water, basically, you get your dash back whenever you're in it, so swimming is kind of crazy. But the 2 new mechanics are the feathers, where you can move in a full range of 360-degree motion and fly around with them. And then the crush blocks, or the Kevin blocks, as the community likes to call them, where you dash into them, and they'll start speeding by in that direction. Meanwhile, Noxitu's in the mirror, which is a really crazy portion of this level. Tidal now making it to these split paths. And very nice use of the Seeker there by Noxitu. So making it to the split paths for Tidal, where you can kind of choose which direction you want to go. And one is usually faster than the other. I don't know what kind of stuff we're going to see Tidal going with. For the most part, there's usually only one that's debated, so I'm not expecting Tidal to go too crazy with these split paths. Just, yep, okay. Down is the more common one here. Noxitu moving through 5B. So here's Theo. So, well, Tidal's going to be moving through these next portions of 6. I should explain what Theo does, because I never explained it in 5A. So Theo, you can pick up, and when you pick Theo up, you cannot jump as high, you cannot move as fast, and you cannot dash. However, if you let go of Theo and then dash or something and then pick him up, he will actually kind of preserve your momentum from the dash. So you can do stuff like throw him and then hyper dash and then pick him up mid hyper dash, and that will keep your hyper dash momentum. So you can kind of do some crazy movement with Theo. Oh geez, Noxitu. Oh geez, there we go. So it's really interesting movement in these portions. Meanwhile, Tidal's very close to entering the fight against Battlein. So we're chasing Battlein's hair to kind of track her down in this Chapter 6 section. And to enter the fight, you do what's called a Battlein boost, where near the end of this Crush Block ride, you're going to see something like that and something like that to preserve your speed all the way to the fight. Alright, Noxitu, making it to the last screen. So similar to the cassette screens where it kind of flips on these beat blocks like on a rhythm, kind of like if you've ever played Mario Galaxy or Mario 3D World. I think those are in that game. You have to go through one of those screens and hit the heart at the end to finish the level. Alright. And then that's it for Chapter 5 then for Noxitu. And as you see, it unlocks the A side of Chapter 6. So Noxitu gets to move on to Chapter 6, where Tidal is fighting Battlein. So with Battlein, you kind of want to avoid her attacks while trying to reach her. And then when you make contact with Battlein, you'll get knocked back, but you'll get your dash back. So in order to try and move as fast as possible, what you usually see people do is try and use the dash they get from hitting Battlein to immediately get back to the ground to do some sort of extended or hyper or something like that. And that's just the fastest way to move while trying to chase down Battlein. And Noxitu now entering the lake here, done with the first feather bit, and now has to go through the whole chapter. So it's going to be a whole new adventure for Noxitu. I think, actually, people are theorizing that if you want to, it could be very slightly faster to do 6B instead of 6A. I don't remember if that's 100% true, but 6B is one of the craziest, dumbest levels ever. So I don't think you're going to be seeing that, even though you saw 5B. I'm still kind of shocked we saw 5B, in all honesty. Like, was not expecting that one. But yeah, no, it looks like Noxitu is not going to be heading for the Chapter 6 cassette tape, so we're not going to see any more B-sides, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, task level or like Revo level is really what you want to get into. I don't know. I heard. So that's what I'm saying. Meanwhile, Tidal's in the remix of the Battlein fight now, where the blocks will start moving on cycles. So unlike a block just falling or moving to a certain location, the blocks will start moving up and down or back and forth. And you can use those to kind of mess with your speed a little bit, or your height, or your momentum, or your anything, and get to Battlein. And this section's a bit shorter. Tidal's already on the second to last screen of the whole fight. Meanwhile, Noxitu's taken some really interesting routes on the split path, going some paths that I usually don't see. You usually don't see anyone else do. And it looks like Tidal just has to dodge that laser and is now finished up with the fight against Battlein. That was very nice reflection from Tidal. Just got to go through here and now climb up. You level up, so your hair becomes pink. The amount of dashes you have in the air in this game is represented by your hair color. So the red-orangish one was kind of like 2. One in mid-air dash, and the blue hair meant you had to get your dash, you go on the ground to refresh your dash because you didn't have any left. The pink hair means you have 2 dashes in mid-air, and that basically means coming into the last chapter, which is going to be the summit, you're actually going to be having a lot of air time because you have double dashes. So this level is going to have a lot of pits and a lot of just spikes on the ground, and it's a very scary level. And it looks like Noxitu accidentally died. They tried to save it, because sometimes with those bumpers, you can get your you can get your dash back when you hit them. So some people can juggle themselves well enough to get that golden feather to respawn and then dash into it. Because since that one's in a bubble, that means you need to dash back into it. And Tidal's now entering the summit. This level's actually pretty interesting because it's split into a lot of different parts. And the beginning parts are all based on different levels. So the summit base here, I mean, it only makes sense since you just exited Reflection, is kind of based on Reflection with how it's designed, with the block shapes and textures. At the end of each screen of a summit section, you have to go through this, where you have to chase battle throughout the screen for her to throw you upwards into the next section of the level. There's a cutscene after each of these, so you have to be careful not to retry, or else you can lose a little bit of time on each of them. And then you move into 500, which is basically the chapter. It's just gonna increase up from here. So since we already saw Reflection, it's just gonna go chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you see Noxitu go through and make it to the battle and fight as Tidal is working through the summit on 500 currently. Looks like having a little bit of trouble with 500 because it is a rather hard section to deal with all the spikes and pits and the gaps and stuff. You know. Gonna be going for a skip here to skip that first spring very well. And also skip making some blocks rumble, also very well. And now on the last screen of 500, has to do the battle and orb thing again. Meanwhile, Noxitu is getting hit by orbs that Battlein is throwing at Madeline. So we got some different orb Battlein action going on here. That was not an orb, that was a laser. I obviously do not know what I'm talking about. Just kidding. No, but in all seriousness, looks like Noxitu is making good progress on the fight here with Battlein. And Tidal is just dashing through 1000. And I guess I should explain the numbers are based on how many meters up the mountain you are. So 1,000 meters up the mountain is this section right here. 500 meters up the mountain. I mean, some lasers are a collection of very small orbs. I guess you're right. If you want to make a nerd rope laser, go be my guess. Nerd's rope is not very good, but I'm not here to discuss my candy opinions, now am I? So 1500 is very neat, because not only is it the Dust Bunnies 2 Return to Jafar, Return Cycles, whatever you want to call it, but it has two in particular very long screens that are rather unforgiving, and you see Tidal making it through the first of those now, and soon to come up on the second one, which is this one right here. It's two really unforgiving screens, so we'll hope Tidal can get through them quickly. There we go. First try on that one as well, so very nice. Meanwhile, I missed Noxitu entering the remix, so getting close to finishing up the battle and fight, and by connection, the whole chapter. Tidal moving on to 3,000 meters. Noxitu struggling a bit with this screen. It is a pretty tricky screen, so that's definitely understandable. Hopefully we'll make it through soon to the next screen of the fight. There we go. Very nice. Oh, we could have jumped on that snowball Tidal. Oh. I think that could have happened. I don't know. Noxitu is into the last two screens of the fight here. Tidal about to be heading up to auto-scroller skip, where you can get an extended off this block in a hallway to skip having to ride it for like half the length of the screen. You land on this block, And wall bounce up there. That was very nicely done for Tidal. Meanwhile, Noxitu still going through this screen here. Looks like on the last hit of the screen, just has to get that and then go through to the final screen of the level. Where you basically feather fly through like 80% of it. And at this point, I think Noxitu is safe. Yes, okay. Done with the thing. Meanwhile, Tidal about to move on to the 2,500 meter section. After this screen is over, which is going to be right now. So for 2,500, you're going to see a few things here that are pretty big. Coming up as Noxitu enters Summit, Tidal is going to be going for Key Skip, where you do 2 jumps off of these spike embedded walls. 2 neutral jumps, that is. Off of a very specific corner, like that, to get into that key, and then do an intentional retry to get to the entrance of the screen quicker. And after this, where you thread the needle going through that small hole there, you go for door skip, which saves 1 second, but has become a meme, so everybody goes for it. It looks like that. It looks just like that. You go under the doors. That's the whole skip. It saves a second. And then you're on the last screen of the level, which is a screen in the level. It is, in fact, a screen of the level that you finish quickly and move on to 3,000 meters. So you've already recapped every chapter at this point. So this is kind of its own section, featuring things like long screens and flag checkpoints that count down from 30 until you reach the summit. And also things like way too many spikes and way too many wall climbs and way too many open pits. And also updrafts and downdrafts. So you remember the wind from chapter 4, right? How it would kind of push you? Yeah, now it affects your gravity because it's moving vertically. So the down moving wind here will actually make you jump lower, make your dashes not go as high if you dash upwards, and will also make you fall faster. A lot of people actually kind of like this section because it allows not only for the level design to be tight and not have much distance between platforms, but also since you're moving to the ground faster, you can just kind of get your movement done faster. That looked very scary from Tidal, but Tidal is already all the way, a third of the way through the flag count at flag 20 here. Gonna be moving on up here, closing in on the updraft section where you are much floatier, and a lot of people don't like this section because it's got some really big problem screens that I can definitely see why people would not like it for those screens. As Noxitu is moving on to the 1,000 meter section of the summit climb, Tidal is going to be an unfortunate death there. One thing I've noticed about Tidal is that Tidal knows when to stop. One thing that can save you a little bit of time throughout the run is knowing that if you're going to die, instead of just waiting for you to fall, you can just retry on the pause menu and just go back to your last checkpoint from right there. And getting through flag 13, which is a very tricky one, doing a good neutral jump to get the flag 11 a little bit quicker. Noxitu entering 1,500 meter section here. Tidal on to the last 10 flags of the level. That's going to be 9. Gonna skip 8 here because it's too far out of the way and not worth it for the easiness of checkpoint 8 to get to 7. If you mess it up, though, you do have to do checkpoint 9 again, which a lot of people, including me, are not the biggest fans of. And then you make it to 6, where you use a golden feather to go up here. and you get into 5, which you don't have to land on the checkpoint because there's a checkpoint right at the screen transition before you reach 4. And then you go through 4 to get to 3, which is right here. And then you're in the final 3, which are 3 really difficult screens where they're pretty big. Not screens, but checkpoints. And there's a lot that can go wrong with all the spikes in them. But Tidal making it to checkpoint 2. Getting up all the way through this portion here. Making it to checkpoint 1. And now just has to go up here. Checkpoint 1. Oh, there we go. A bit of a slip, but Tidal making it up here. Now just has to make sure it doesn't reset the cutscene and finishes the game with a time of 36:41. GG's to Tidal on our victory today. That was really interesting. I've never heard that. Whatever. Tidal's finished. So GG's to Tidal. We're getting a 36:41. I believe Tidal's PB is a 36:23, so that actually was a very good run for Tidal. Meanwhile, Noxitu going through the summit here. Looks like making good progress on 2,000 meter. Meanwhile, if we want to take a guess on Tidal's death count, it was 29, which is a very good death count for a 36:41. Definitely a lot of deaths that can be cut out there, and a lot of time that can be saved up with that, especially, as I mentioned, since that run is so close to PB. And Noxitu accidentally dying at the end, missing the wall bounce. Usually if you miss the wall bounce, you can still recover it by getting back onto the platform and getting your dashes back, but either noticed a bit too late or it was just a bit too far away. Yeah, I think he is moving in a way that is not really giving it as much of a chance to recover, so has to be careful. It looks like more strawberries for Noxitu. At 5. 5 berry hype. Just really wants those berries. Taking a few deaths in the process, though, which is not very good. And moving on to 2,500 meters now after that last 2,000 screen. And there you go. Coming up to key skip. I'm trying to check some stuff involving future stages while Noxitu is going through this, so sorry if I'm staying a little silent. Well, he gets the skips, like the key skip, finally done. Very good job. And coming up on door skip here. There we go. 2 first try door skips in this round, in this race, which is really cool to see. And we're going to see Noxitu going through the last screen. According to speedrun.com, Noxitu's PB is a 45:50. So if that's actually the case, we could possibly see a Noxitu PB in this with the time that he's going to be entering 3,000 meters with, which is pretty cool. And it looks like, all right. So Noxitu's making good progress on 3,000 right now. Getting through the flags. That looked like he should have died. But, you know, do you ever die in this game? Skipping that checkpoint. Ooh, getting risky now. Making it through, though, to the next one, 23. So no need to worry. And missing the spring, but right at the checkpoint, so no need to worry too much about it. Makes it 2. 20 here, so a third of the way done with the flag counter. Gonna get up to the updrafts now. With the downdraft section over, we're gonna be going through a lot of numbers in this section, so we'll see how quickly Noxitu can get through this with all the big spiked floors and gaps and pits and unfun. Looks like doing all right, though, already at 15, 14. All right, and then that's the last third of them. Gonna get into 10 now. Nine, skipping 8, just like Tidal did, and getting to 7, fine. Gonna be climbing up here to reach the last battle and throw, which is checkpoint 6. Now has to fly up here with the feather. I never explained this, but due to the way the feather works when it comes to turning, it's actually faster if you can use analog sticks with the feather in order to have less of an angle while moving upward diagonally. Because you want to focus your movement in whatever direction you actually want to go, if you want to move up or down as well, or left or right with it, in order to make sure most of your speed is in the direction that you're trying to aim for more than any other. So, for example, when you're trying to go upwards, like the beginning section of Reflection back in Chapter 6, if you want to turn, you want it to be very subtly left or right while being more focused on being up or down. Or up in that case, really, because you don't want to go downwards. Noxitu made it. Oh, so close. Bonking his head on the spikes, not making it to checkpoint 1. Come on, Noxitu. Let's go. There we go. Makes it to flag 1. All right, so if speedrun.com is up to date, this is probably going to PB for Noxitu by about 1 minute, which is pretty good. So just has to get up here, and GG's to Noxitu on the 44-48. Was that a 48? 44-48 finish. Very good job. All right, so that was a really good race. I don't think anybody else is going to be... I don't think either of them are going to be joining us for a post-race interview today. I mean, I don't know if either of them want to. So, while we wait to see if anyone is, I'm just going to plug some upcoming races in about an hour on Speed Gaming 2, where you are right now. We have Bry Guy 77 versus Mickey Now and Realties versus Warm Ham on the same stream. At 2:30, so about 2.5 hours, we have Sefi Compacto versus Rufon. And then an hour after that, 3:30, TGH versus Mickey Now. 6 p.m., so a while after that, in about 6 hours from now, we have One Random Paul versus Galaxy. And then at 9:30, so 9.5 hours, there's Zik3 versus Yix. And then half an hour after that, at 10, there's Mr. Ike and Gamzee Dreamer. And then even if you're still not satisfied, at 1:30 in the morning, 13.5 hours from now, is going to be Bry Guy 77 versus Tridicatrix. So there's a lot more Celeste going on today. And then it continues a lot for the next few days here. So definitely would recommend following any runner that you would like to follow. You see Epic Yoshi Master put the commands for all the follow links in chat. And with that being done, I'm going to thank everybody for coming out today to watch this race. It was a very good race, fun race to watch. So I'm just going to leave and hope that the rest of the races today are just as good, if not better. So I enjoyed commentating this today, but I will be hopping out now. See you later.